often asked at concerts to explain the differences between a Baroque and a modern cello. So today I've got two of my cellos together on the sofa to talk you through these differences. As you can see, at first glance there's nothing glaringly obvious. They're both made of the same wood, which is spruce for the front and maple for the back, sides and neck, with ebony commonly used for the pegs and the fingerboard and the tailpiece. There's a very small difference in size between these two cellos. The cello on the left is a little bit smaller, but nothing particularly significant. So, here on the left is what's commonly referred to as a Baroque cello. That is, an instrument set up in the way it would have been in Bach or Handel's time. This instrument is in fact a copy of an 18th century Guadagnini cello from 1759, the year of Handel's death. It was made for me by David Rubio in 1988. On the right is a modern cello, that is an instrument with a technical setup for playing music of a later time frame, so into the 19th, 20th and 21st centuries. This particular cello dates from the early 19th century, made in London. However, the Rubio cello has been made to the exact specifications of the original Guadagnini cello from 1759, and this beautiful English cello on the right has had modifications and alterations over the years, taking it further from its 19th century origins. The first main difference you'll see is the material the strings are made from. My Baroque cello here has two uncovered gut strings and two wound with silver. The gut is traditionally from a sheep's intestine. You can see the two unwound gut strings at the top, the A string and the D string, and then the G string and C string are covered in silver. My modern cello has all four strings made from metal, either steel or a composite material, and this can sometimes have a synthetic core or middle. These metal or synthetic strings tend to be more powerful and under considerably more tension. If I pluck the two cellos, you'll hear a difference in pitch. Here's my modern cello. And now my Baroque cello. The Baroque cello has an A string which sounds at 415 Hz. The modern cello has an A string that sounds at 440 Hz, which is approximately a semitone higher. Over the years, pitch has risen as instruments have got louder and needed more carrying power. My Baroque cello with its gut strings would have a hard time being heard over a modern-day symphony orchestra. My modern cello would have no problem at all, however, and its string setup has been designed to allow its sound to carry further. It would be perfect for performing a piece such as Elgar's Cello Concerto. Together with rising pitch, you might just see that the angle of the neck, where it meets the body of the instrument on the two cellos, is slightly different. On the modern cello, the neck is set at a slightly different angle, more steeply inclined, allowing the strings to be under more tension. These are correspondingly harder to press down, especially in comparison to my gut strings on the Baroque cello. These gut strings feel softer under the fingers, and the sound they produce is warmer and more intimate. If you look at the bridges on the two instruments, you'll see that the Baroque cello bridge here is slightly lower and less arched, and it follows a gentle curve. Here's the modern cello bridge. The shape of the bridge has had to alter once the angle of the neck has changed, and correspondingly the bridge is slightly higher than on the Baroque cello. In both cases, the bridge closely follows the shape of the fingerboard. Here it is again on the Baroque cello. You'll see that the fingerboard on my Baroque cello is slightly shorter than the fingerboard on the modern cello. This is because Baroque repertoire, certainly in the first half of the 18th century, rarely demanded really high left-hand finger positions, therefore the fingerboard could be shorter. Here's a shot of both fingerboards for comparison. The Baroque cello on the left and the modern cello on the right. Looking towards the bottom of both instruments, you'll see that my Baroque cello on the left has a simple ebony tailpiece with no means of adjusting the tuning from this tailpiece. It all has to be done from the pegs in the peg box. Modern string instruments usually have adjusters for fine tuning, either built into the tailpiece or, as in this case, added on just for the A and D strings. Gut strings can't work with these fine tuners due to the extra stretch in the gut strings. Perhaps the most striking visual difference between the two cellos actually concerns the very bottom of the instrument. You'll see that my modern cello has an end pin and my Baroque cello has nothing at all. The most common way of holding a cello throughout the 18th century was to support it in your legs, cradling it between your calves. There are also images of cellos being played balanced on stools or chairs or even on the floor. The use of an end pin on a cello didn't become standardised until well into the 19th century. Now, I can't talk about the cello without mentioning the bow, which is of course integral to making the sound. I'll come to the differences between a Baroque and modern bow in a separate film, but just briefly, the type of bow I use on a Baroque cello is different to the one I use on a modern cello. The shape of the stick on a Baroque bow is convex, tapering to a fine point, and on a modern bow, the stick is concave, allowing for strength at both ends of the bow. Using the correct bow has a tremendous effect on the sound, especially when playing Baroque music. A modern bow, constructed for strength and power, can feel too heavy for what Baroque music demands, and conversely, if I tried to play romantic music using a Baroque bow, I would lack the strength and sustained quality that the concave stick on the modern bow affords. So the best way for you to hear the difference between the two cellos is for me to play a little bit. So I'm going to play a couple of bars of Bach Minuet from his first suite in G major, first on the Baroque cello and then on the modern cello, just to give you an idea of the different sound world. And now the same piece performed on my modern cello, so you can hear the difference from the gut strings to the metal strings and from using a different bow. I will, over the coming weeks, be performing the whole of Bach's first cello suite in G major on my Baroque cello, so do keep checking back on our YouTube channel for performances. Thank you for listening.